Okay, I just finished my first plaster session, and took a really long time just to do this one house. I'd say probably close to an hour total just to do this, but it was my first time, so we're gonna let that dry and then paint it after a bit. Next step is maybe try one of these other houses with some spackling or joint compound or something and see if it's quicker, see if it looks better. But I do like the way that the bandage wrap textures lay on this building, so I may continue to use those because it looks pretty good. Okay, so I got most of my buildings done. All the plaster is done on them, and all the boxes are wrapped. Got some windows I cut out just to add some extra effects. This is the one that had the door on it. I'll have to re-clean that back up and paint. And a couple different buildings. This is a kind of like a neighboring building with openings. And I also got some other random pieces. This is like an old Ethernet board. I took this piece out here, and I'll probably end up taking some of these scraps or painting this piece along with the pieces on this motherboard. Cut up this tubing from an old CPAP machine and just start adding it to the buildings to add for effects. But my next step is I'm going to be painting these buildings. So I'm just going to pick one to start with and start with a base color, and we'll get going. Okay, so my next step here, I'm going to be painting, I got some acrylic paints. I have golden straw and then antique gold, and they're kind of a yellow bronze color. I'm going to add it to a cup of water and use these sponge foam type brushes and get them really wet. And I'm going to soak it and dab it on and let them just kind of drip and get the base coat on. Okay, so right now it's all experimental. I'm going to start with this golden straw, and add it to an old styrofoam cup. I'm just going to place a squeeze of it in there like so, and then I'm just going to add some water to it. And then we're going to stir that up and get the foam sponge brushes and just start applying it. Alright, so I got it all stirred up. It's about a half a cup of water. I got my little boy here with me, just hanging out, getting ready to paint with me. And I'm just going to kind of experiment with this. I've never really done it before. So I'm going to kind of wet it and soak up the brush, and then just apply it and let it kind of run off. And squeeze it and let it kind of drip to kind of give it one of those real feels of, you know, when you get a building that's kind of weathered and looks like it's been there for a while. Some spots will be heavier than others, but basically I'm just going to apply this process into the entire piece. And already I know the color is not that great on the phone, but in person the color looks really great, and it's taken to the color really well.
Dad, can I do it?
Yes, you may. So, Lincoln's gonna try it. Dip it slow. Let it drip off. And then go ahead and put it right on this white. Alright, good job. It's always good to have extra helpers around, especially ones that got their tongue sticking out. They're in real deep focus. That looks great. Okay, we're going to do this building and then I'll come back to it. Paint it, go. I got my little helper with me, and they're getting it a good paint job. Oh yeah. The tongue is working. Oh yeah. Getting this little building painted. Look at that. He's got it down. Alright, so we got it all painted, and I brought my sand just to see how close it was. The building's a little bit yellow, so what I did was I added this other color that I got. It was called Antique Gold to the water mixture, dabbed it, and then you see the streaking effect in there. That's on purpose. So I dabbed that in there, get a darker color, and I let it streak down to kind of give it a weathering look. I've also chipped a couple pieces of the plaster away, but overall it looks pretty good. And the next one I'm going to do, I'm just going to have it a little bit darker to see how that turns out. Okay, so again, experimenting with different colors. I'm trying just a little bit of this tan, and then I put in some chocolate brown and the original golden straw that I used to give that yellow tone to it. And it came out with like a pretty like bland tannish brown color that's, believe it or not, it's kind of close to the sand color that I got. I don't know if I really want it to match, but we're going to apply it to this building that I created and just kind of see how it turns out. So we'll start with that now. It's got a pretty nice color.
Oh my
And then my kid's dropping all those shells. Oh no! Alright, so yeah, it's definitely not as yellow as the other, but it still has a pretty nice tone to it. The yellow definitely took to the plaster color last time. I think it's more of the base coat. So here's that drip effect that I've been using and talking about to give it, you know, that years of wear that you might see on a building. And then I'll just kind of brush and paint through it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just did the other color tone that I used earlier. You can see the one in the background there. It was a lot more yellow tone, but I really like this kind of little distressed look. I threw a Jawa inside just to kind of see what may end up looking like. Just turn it here. At least it's kind of like a little hut for him. He can hide out inside, but yeah, it turned out really good. I think I'm gonna go with this color, this mixture that I did. Okay, we'll finish painting up the rest of these buildings and I'll get you an update. Okay, we got a little video update. Got all of them painted. That first one I did that had that yellow base, you know, it's pretty yellow. In person it's more like a school bus yellow. So I think I may just primer that and start over fresh, because the mixture that I did with the tan and the chocolate brown, with that base, that turned out awesome. I love the way it looks. So I threw a couple figures in there just to see kind of scale wise, you know, everything turned out okay and potentially how this would look. So plaster, wraps, painted, good to go. So after this dries, I'm going to take some of my little pieces that I got around the house and then glue them on, you know, add some pipes and just parts and pieces that are hanging around, and try to make it look as real as I possibly can. So we'll check up in a bit. Okay, for a little update, what we're doing is just taking lots of different pieces of hardware, wire ties, pieces off the motherboard, and I gave them a primer, and now I'm doing the paint mix like we did on these houses, and I'm just kind of applying basically a weathering effect. So give you an example how that's done. Basically, I'm just washing the paint over it, kind of eliminating or erasing that shininess and kind of making it more of a dull look. And I basically applied that technique to all these random pieces I have. To give you an idea what I'm thinking here too is, for example, I have this plate that I just put on. This could get glued up in here, like so. It could be attached to the side of the building as accents. Not really sure what I'm doing with it yet. You know, I put a paper clip here, put it onto another piece, and probably have that tie into another one of these. Kind of looks like a generator, perhaps. Just a bunch of parts and pieces. I'm just painting it up, and we'll just stick them all over these different houses that I got and see what happens. Okay, so here we are. We got some nice like accessories that I took and painted. And just put them in. Just kind of randomly just to see what it looks like here, but you know, that was a piece off of a motherboard chip. This right here I like a lot. It's got that vent that comes up through the door. Some extra pieces laying in there. That's where we're at so far. All right, so I just wanted to do a little update here to some little details that I'm doing. I'm taking this wall anchor here, and basically I'm just kind of weathering it to give it a little bit of a worn effect, you know, because it is kind of that sandy motif that we have going on. And basically I'm just taking some snips and I'm cutting it off at the base so that I have the flat part out. So I'm cutting it about right here. And then once that's done, I'm taking that bottom piece. I'll give you an example here. I'm just applying it, a little glue to it, and putting it on the building like so. And just to give you an idea, I'll go back through and then, you know, weather this and give it an effect like it's draining some water. You know, kind of that rusty water look that's coming out of there. And I gotta tell you, this piece here, this was from my old hose from a CPAP machine. Again, I just painted it and just glued it right on there from the wall, you know, to the roof part of that building, and it actually turned out really cool. The other piece I did was I just had this metal bracket and, you know, just worn it and aged it again. Took a chip from I think it was a modem that I had, painted it, kind of left the lights in there, that little blue color, and you know, all I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna set it in place like so, and then when I place the building down, kind of give it like a control panel look, you know, where you access the house. But I think that turned out really cool. So right now I'm just going to focus on this piece. It's kind of sewer vent pipes that I'm doing, and I'll show you what it looks like here after I get the paint ready and get it ready to go. Okay, so now I'm going to detail paint these like, little sewer pipe vents that I put on here. I used the original 4 colors that I did the rest of the building with. I also added the black, and then added a green, and then I have this kind of like rusty color here that I'm going to use as well, just to try to give it that kind of old mossy feel. You know, it doesn't look like it's It looks very old and yucky. So I'm going to mix the black and brown together, try to get a really dark hue, so to speak. I'll mix that up pretty well, and again, it's a little bit like the rust color that we have. I'm not going to use a lot of paint here because, I mean, realistically, it's not that big of an area that we're painting. So first I'm just going to kind of touch over the building, the pipes here, and kind of darken them up, give it an old feel around the piece. I'm just using a fine paintbrush. Sorry about the video here. It's obviously my first time. We want to get inside there. You know, get that illusion that it's been running and dripping out. So I'm going to go kind of heavy there. And then I'm just going to kind of dry brush around it. Again, giving it that old effect. Back through with that lighter color that I have. But so I'm just going to get a little bit of paint on here. And I really want to give it that illusion like it's dripping right out of here. So we're going to start it kind of thick towards the top, and then we're going to thin it out as it goes down the building. I'm going to get a little bit heavy on the tip of my brush. So I can give it that streak effect. Maybe it streaks off a little bit here. You know, it runs with the contour of the building a little bit. Okay, so sorry about that. I was painting and trying to hold the camera at the same time. So that's kind of the effect it's given there. You can see that, but so I'm just going to kind of brush off what I got, and then I'm going to mix this green into this mixture here. Get a little extra here because I want to give it that gross sewer, like mossy effect. So I think if we get some green added into this color, it'll really help. Really help set that off. I'm going to just go straight green right inside here. Really kind of give it that illusion. I'm going to actually scrape the brush off right inside that green to give it that build-up look. I don't know if the camera's picking that up, but it actually looks pretty freaking cool. Let me see if I can get a close-up of that. Okay, so I'm just going to add some more green to this dark black and brown that I got. Maybe some green around the pipe. Okay, so let this dry for a bit, and then I'm going to go back through with the that rusty color. Okay, so now I'm basically applying the same technique to this larger pipe that I have here in this particular building. It's just a PVC clamp. Just basically, I just glued it right to the building. I'm loading my brush up now, and I'm just going to kind of darken up inside. So obviously we don't want to see the building. So maybe go black to match what we got going on the outside. And we're going to run into a little bit of an issue here because the gel glue that we applied to that isn't fully dried, and now unfortunately my brush is getting clumpy. Big mistake there, but we're going to move on because we have a few of these to do. So again, we're just going to give the illusion it. This pipe has been leaking. That's really all we're doing there, is just creating some effects with this brush. And again, we'll just apply the straight green right to it. Give it that old moss feel there that you might see with a old sewer pipe. I'm just going to streak down a little straight green off of that. Okay. So we'll let that dry, and then again I have a couple other ones that I'm going to be doing, and we'll come back to that. Okay, so I just finished up the effect on the pipes. Another thing I did is I also added it underneath, you know, like this piece here and underneath here to kind of give it a that same effect. I also did it to the windowsill up here, but I think it turned out pretty cool. Again, it was a mixture of those browns and tans that I did. I did the green to the inside as well as part of the drip, and I had that rust color that I applied, and then after I was done I went back over it with the light color, and then all I did was I just took my thumb and smeared it down to kind of give it you know, like it's been washed through quite a bit. So that one looks like a fresh run over there. This one looks like it's been there for a while. It turned out pretty cool, so happy with that little detail. Okay, so I just want to recap what I did there. That is an anchor, wall screw anchor. I just cut it at the base, flipped that off, glued it to the wall. That's what we got there. Let that dry. Added some different mixtures of paint, blacks, browns, the green for the sewage effect, those tans that I've been using throughout, and then just give it kind of the runoff, the drainage appearance. And again, over here is a larger one. Turned out really nice. I also did it to the window, just a minor detail there. And also applied it like underneath this venting pipe that I had, under that module there. So again, it turned out really well. I just went kind of simple on this one. This one here, we just had the one pipe at the top, And I did a little detailing around the window sill there, but overall, hopefully it's not too much. It's just on, I got a large one back there, 2 on this one, and 1 on here to kind of give it a little bit of consistency throughout the buildings. But yeah, overall it looked, it looks really, really cool in person. So glad I added that little detail to it. Okay, so we're doing an update here. Again, I just placed things randomly throughout. This isn't where things are going to be, but just seeing how everything sets up. Got all the little pieces and parts and details added in there. Texture to the walls. These little drain pipes actually turned out really well. Random parts back here in between the buildings, up top, and just gonna place some figures all over the place, just liven it up a little bit. Little jaw well lives in there. What's up? So yeah, turned out pretty sweet so far. We're just feel like we're just kind of getting started with it, because I got sand and other buildings we're getting ready to make. So yeah, we're just getting going on this thing.